Good morning. Welcome to the Women's Symposium of Southern California. This is our inaugural semi-annual Women's Symposium. Thank you for joining us. We're going to get into a lot today, and I'm very excited to let you know that my name is Mara Feinberg-Cook. I'm a certified financial planner and founder of this organization. We are a nonprofit 501c3, 100% volunteer operated, and pro bono volunteers and professionals come together to help women improve their lives. So today we're going to be doing a lot of really focused conversations on financial planning, empowerment. You know, are we doing the best things and making the best decisions for ourselves? And so we'll see and give you some really good tips. We will be recording today, and also please be on a respectful behavior as we all have different backgrounds and viewpoints. Thank you so much. October is National Women's Business Month. Women's Symposium has taken on the challenge to help celebrate and recognize small businesses that have been founded by women. And I wanted to take the time to really articulate that. I think it was in the 70s, women-owned businesses were about 4%. Now women-owned businesses are well over 40% of United States entities today. And a very, very exciting time to celebrate. If you're a woman business owner, congratulations. And we are here to celebrate your accomplishments and support your financial goals over time. Women's Symposium is an organization historically around International Women's Day. We do celebrations. This year's theme was Choose to Challenge. And we were doing that by growing our programs, including this mini symposium and the Empower Web Mentorship program. A little bit about what we're going to do today. In a few moments, I'll be introducing our keynote speaker, Meghan Doscher, and then we'll have a speaker, Meg Bavero, who's a specialist in investments. And we're going to have a dynamic conversation on finances, exciting trends with women today, and the next step above cash investments is fixed income investments, the who's, what's, where's, when's, and why's. I'll allow some Q&A with both of our keynote presenters, and then towards the end of the presentation, we will ask you to fill out an evaluation and visit our sponsor exhibitor booths. We will also have an Empower Web Mentorship by WSSC session open so that we can answer your Q&A about that as well. Definitely would not be here without our Women's Symposium of Southern California sponsors. I'm talking about companies and organizations that really choose to align their business marketing dollars with women's empowerment. And I definitely want to thank the two participating speakers and sponsors today from Bright House and PIMCO. We are 100% volunteers, and there has been multiple women this summer that have added in their time and so forth. And I do want to thank them. That slide went a little bit fast. We're going to bring that back in. And I just want to say thank you to these women, because without their leadership and time, we would not be here today. So owning your own journey is our theme today. And I just have to say, what does that mean to me? Owning my own journey. Pardon me, all my computers are, I got to own this. I'm owning my journey. Essentially, that means putting my mouth where, putting my money where my mouth is. Taking responsibility. Doing everything that I can to say that I tried. And owning my own journey is something that is important for me to feel accomplishments, for me to help my family, for me to help the community. We have a program for you embedded. There's a link in the chat, so you can have a copy of the agenda as well. And just want to go over a little bit of logistics. Let's see here. If you have any troubleshooting issues on Hopin, we have a help desk support in our sessions. You can also text or chat. We'll be responsive as possible. And also, our expo booths will be open after the event. You can visit both of our speakers' expos, and let's see, video on presenter mode. I don't know. Let's see. I'm getting some information here. Thank you for helping me. I don't know if we can do a speaker mode. There's a little bit of tech, but we're going to get this right back up and it'll be great. All right. So when we help ourselves and we help our community, we're actually pushing the agenda forward for gender parity. And I'm really excited that essentially, if we don't plan, we're going to find ourselves in a place we don't want to be. And it feels good to plan and fill those gaps in our lives. Try to implement small and manageable steps so that we can feel secure in our lives and have well-being long-term, essentially financial independence. For some time today, for some people it could be tomorrow, but you know, if you can see that change and learn a few things today and implement them and have that aha moment, I got it, then you can start to feel the incremental change towards empowerment and success. There is a place for overall well-being by listening to others in educational forums in situations like this, learning from my mistakes, seeking peer counseling, learning from others is really where the magic happens with women. And that's where this forum is for us today. We also recognize our Purple Diamond Award winners. These are women, specific in Southern California, who have pushed the needle forward. All right. I don't know if you can see me or the screen, but let's see. All right. See if we can get this back up. Thanks for working with me, you guys. Women's Symposium, through our evaluations earlier this March in our annual Women's Symposium, it was apparent that our attendees wanted more on finding their purpose. So Women's Symposium is launching the Empower Web Mentorship Program today. And we're going to have a session. You can talk more about that with us. But when personal connections are at an all-time low in COVID and national pandemic, it's important that we get together and help each other, whether it's a peer-to-peer or mentor-up situation. I'm excited to say that the Dean of DeVry Long Beach, Laura Knapp, will be starting the pilot with us. Samjita Mitra, the chief economist at the state of California, as well as myself and a few other Fortune 500 company executives. Really excited about this. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a kickoff in a week, and we're going to ask participants to meet at least 1 hour per month with their mentor over the next few months and see what kind of impact we can bring. And then we'll have a closing forum. technology is way too important to really leave women out of it. And so it's important that essentially we take those seats at the table. There's a lot on the line today with cyber attacks on the rise, a global pandemic, what's right for your own health, what's not right, all these supply chain shortages worldwide, not to mention tremendous inflation on all levels. Just check Costco out, and our leisure expenses, and everything's going up. So we hope that today you enjoy our keynote speakers and just take a little something away that can take the edge off of life and help you navigate your financial waters that we're all boating through together. We will be general in nature, and then we'll get more specific on investments later on. Hang in there if there's a few things that don't make sense, or if you have heard a new term for the first time. We are improving your life together. We're improving our community's life through financial independence, and we're delighted to have you here to join us in the conversation today. Without further ado, I do want to introduce our keynote speakers. And Meg, I will be with you in a minute. There's a toggle issue here, but I do want to introduce you. But I wanted to show your beautiful picture. Meghan Doscher is the Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer of Bright House Financial out of, well, her virtual office right now, but headquartered in North Carolina. She is going to be talking on tremendous trends with women today. And she is the, let's see here, I apologize. Meghan is the Chief Marketing Officer for Bright House. And Bright House is a Fortune 500 company, one of the world's largest providers of life insurance and annuities for solutions. Bright House Financial was established by MetLife, remember Snoopy, in 2016. In this role, Meghan is responsible for the company's marketing, branding, strategy, and she closely partners with others in her organization to drive business and develop opportunities for top-line revenue and growth. She also oversees sales enablements, strategic data analytics, and insights in digital platforms, focusing on growing the Bright House financial market share. She has previously served as a vice president for compensation and business initiatives for MetLife's U.S. retail business, with responsibility for leading sales comp admin in the United States for all advisors and brokers. I think it's a good time to bring up Meg. Here we go.
Good morning. Good afternoon for those on the East Coast. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Great. Well, thank you, Mara, and thank you, Women's Symposium of Southern California. And I'm so happy to be here with all of you this morning, this afternoon. I applaud all of you for taking the time today to take the first or maybe second and third steps toward owning your journey of financial wellness. Our goal today is to hopefully start to chip away at some of the financial basics. So when I speak with so many of my female friends, they hear finance and just zone out. It's like one of those taboo topics that we don't really talk about. There's sometimes a lot of big words, confusing words that are used. And we're going to do our best today to kind of take that all away. We're going to debunk that this is complex. And at the end of the day, I am very hopeful that you can walk away with a few actionable steps to make sure you're controlling your journey and really owning your journey, quite frankly. A few things I like to say up front before we dive in. I really like to hit it head on. So if you remember nothing else from my presentation, I wanted to start with 3 key topics, I guess. Then we'll peel back the onion a bit and I'll ground you in some data so that, more for awareness. I'm a big fan of not putting our heads in the sand and just being aware of, what we potentially could be facing. And then toward the end, we will revisit some actionable steps you can take to just feel a little bit more well financially. So first and foremost, you own this, you got this. Like, do not think this is super complicated and complex. I think as women, we're prone to sometimes default to, oh, I don't get this, or I wish I knew more about it. And there's some kind of embarrassment around it. And at the end of the day, people should be able to explain it to you in plain English. I'm a huge fan of financial professionals. Mara's one of our favorite financial professionals that our wholesalers work with. But, it's a phenomenal, noble industry. And it's what they do for a living, right? There are people out there who can help guide you through this in a simple way without making you feel like you need some kind of advanced degree to understand it. It's pretty basic, and there are many people that do a phenomenal job explaining this. And if you don't feel like you have the right financial professional, it's like dating. You can go find another, right? So we'll get into that a little bit in a few minutes. The other thing I'm going to touch on today is knowledge and transparency are power. So if you're in a relationship, you're married, or you share assets with someone or share money with someone, make sure you know what's coming in and out. Make sure you know where your money is. If you're working female, make sure you know what your company offers. A lot of companies provide benefits to you. So just make sure you know what's available to you, and start to make a list of everything you have financially. It's a great place to start. And then you can take a step back and say, what might be missing? What do I need? And sometimes you don't need everything. Less is more. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as well. Last but not least is inserting reality. So a lot of my friends, and rightfully so, and I've been in this situation too, where you feel like the bills are piling up, and the thought of even saving, let alone, making ends meet, it's just overwhelming. And there's just a lot of information out there. There's information everywhere these days, from TikTok to Instagram to the news. It's just, there's data everywhere. So for me, the best way to think about this is actually start paying attention. So maybe for the next month or two, just to pay attention to where you're spending your money. For me, it's all about risk reward and return on your money. You work really hard for your money, like really hard. We deal with crazy bosses and balancing and juggling everything. So we want to make sure we know where we're spending it, and is it worth it? And I'll give you an example of this, and it's a little silly, but it's true that small things add up. So early in my career, I think I was reading Cosmo magazine or something, and they mentioned that a lot of people spend $1,200 a year on coffee. Like if you buy like one caramel macchiato or pumpkin spice latte a day or something, you're spending over $1,200 a year. And I paused because I love coffee, and I definitely was buying at least one in the morning, and I'm sure I was buying one in the afternoon, and very quickly realized I was spending over $2,000 a year on coffee. So I love coffee, but for me, I like any coffee, and the reward for me just wasn't there. So I decided I was going to brew my own coffee, grab one caramel macchiato on the weekend. And at that time, that was a meaningful savings to me. When you think about $2,000 a year, that's definitely enough to start to build up some savings for a rainy day, or buy, part of a nice insurance policy for your family. And to me, the caramel macchiato just wasn't worth it. It might be worth it to you, and that's totally fine. But it's really just making sure you're not leaking money without realizing it. And, just make sure you're paying attention. And that's really more than half the battle right there. So we're going to dive into this a little bit over the next few minutes. So with that, I am going to attempt to share my screen. Hopefully we can do this. Let me know if you can't see this. Mara or Cheryl, if you could text me if you can't see it. But right now we're going to talk about owning our financial future. And I'm going to throw out some data And we're going to do some celebrating, and then we're going to ground ourselves in some additional facts just so we can plan accordingly. So I call it Super Women Today. We just have to take a pause on this. Every time I read this slide, I get goosebumps and just, beam with pride. Women own over 12 million firms responsible for generating almost 2 trillion with a T dollars in revenue. We control more than half the private wealth in the United States and are responsible for 80% of all purchases in the US. So we are controlling the wealth, where it's spending. We make the world go round, right? We knew that, but we're really fueling the economy, which is pretty cool. We also earn over half of all bachelor's and advanced master's degrees. And we should be really proud of that. We're also on deck to inherit 70% of the wealth transfer over the next 2 generations. So when you think about your parents, and I know you don't want to think about it, but your parents and possibly grandparents and those generations, or your children, if you have children, they're going to be inheriting a lot of money. And we want to make sure they're prepared to handle that responsibly, right? Women in all seasons of life need to think about this. So maybe you used to work and you've stepped out of the workforce to raise children or care for an aging parent or family member. Maybe you're almost retired or are retired. And there's everything in between, right? So we all need to be mindful of what our own situation is, because everyone's is a little bit different. And, what is right for me may not be right for Meg or Mara or one of you, right? And that's where, financial planning really comes into play. So you don't need to figure out alone. That's the good news. Financial professionals can help. And there's many resources, including one I put in the expo, of questions to ask when you're trying to find a financial professional. Again, we mentioned Mara is one of the top financial professionals who will be recognized in Fortune 500 in November when that issue comes out. But there are many financial professionals across the country who can help. And I know when I speak with others, sometimes they think, well, gee, like if for some reason in their head, they think I need $10,000 to pay a financial professional for help. And that is not the case. That is actually one of the questions. You can ask a financial professional, how are they compensated? Many financial professionals are there to guide you and build out a plan, and you can just pay for a plan to execute on, or you don't have to pay unless you're actually purchasing a solution. So you can kind of figure out what kind of professional best suits your needs, given where you're at and what your asset profile looks like. There's many different things financial professionals can help you with. Marriage, or having a same-sex domestic partner. There are specific financial professionals that can help you structure your assets accordingly. One of the topics that comes up quite frequently, and I have another piece of information in the expo, is how to talk to a spouse or domestic partner about your financials. I think for many people, where another person is managing your money, it feels uncomfortable asking questions, or maybe there's a level of defensiveness when you do ask. And there's a lot of tips in this brochure in the expo on how to approach that discussion so that it's clearly a team sport and it's not leaving the money manager feeling defensive or like, why are you asking these questions? And all the skepticism comes in. It is a healthy conversation that should be had. And really, when you think about it, God forbid, something happens, the emotional toll of that is big enough without scrambling to figure out your financial situation. So I put that into like life. Life throws a lot of curveballs at you. This does not need to be one of them, right? Retirement is so exciting. And a lot of people have a lot of goals. But understanding, like, how are you preparing for retirement? A lot of us, if we choose to retire in our mid-60s, may end up being retired for 30 years. So how are you going to fund your lifestyle? What's important to you, or what do you think might be important to you, just to make sure you're prepared? And then last but not least, divorce or death, which aren't pleasant to think about, but it's better to be prepared than not. So today's discussion, we're going to talk a little bit about the challenges, more in the vein of knowledge is power, purely for awareness, not trying to be Debbie Downer, but it is something to just keep in the back of your mind as you think about your plans. We're going to talk about setting goals, organizing our finances, and then preparing for the unknowns. So the great news is that we're living longer, right? Women are living, to almost, the age of 87, which is pretty amazing. Men are even enhancing their life expectancy to age 84. So what does that mean? Well, it means if you're retiring at the age of 65 and you're planning to stop that income that you would get from being employed, you need to plan for a little over 20 years of expense without matching income if you're not prepared. And so just being aware that, okay, you're living longer, how are you going to fund that lifestyle and live your best life in retirement, which many of us are looking forward to. Some of the challenges that we have to overcome as women is we do tend to earn less. And I'll show a slide in a little bit. There's a lot of discussion right now going on about closing that income gap. And we are making progress. I know that many of us are trying to do our part, but it's going to take time. And the reality is that most women do have lower retirement income than men because of that. If you're earning less is going into Social Security, and less is probably going into a potential, benefit plan, whether it be a 401k that you're contributing into and your employer's matching, or a 403b plan or something else. Women also typically spend more on medical care. I attribute that to we are more regimented and prescribed on when we go to the doctor, and we do a lot of self-care. We invest a lot of time and understanding, and we do invest in our wellness, which does pay off, but you do spend more over time making sure that you are healthy and living your best and healthiest life. We spend more time out of the workforce caring for family members at times. So when you think about it, like I have many friends who worked and probably until their early 30s and then stepped away to raise children for, let's say, 5 to 8 years, and then went back to the workforce. And that's wonderful. And I don't think they would change a thing. But when you look at those 8 years, in your early 30s to your late 30s, where you could have been contributing to Social Security or other, retirement plans, when you look at it through that lens, that's a chunk of time where you weren't saving money as much as you could have been had you not made that decision. Again, not that anyone regrets that decision, but it's just a reality that we have to face and plan to overcome. And then last but not least, women are more likely to enter a nursing home, which isn't a significant expense in retirement. And there are solutions to help offset that expense, but just to be aware that there may be a funding expense component, just to make sure you're incorporating that in your plans as well. So I just want to touch on 2 other slides before we get into the planning. This slide shows you, if you look at the age 50 right in the middle, you can see that for a similar professional degree and job, trajectory, a 50-year-old male would make $100,000 a year-ish. And women would make about $70,000 for the same job. And again, that gap is closing, but it's not going to close over time. And when you look at that, it's important just to know that our potential to save and make that money work as hard as possible is really what we need to focus on, because every penny counts. We also, given what I talked about, when you extrapolate out the time out of the workforce, it could add up meaningfully. So, a little bit less than 300,000 or more a year of lost wages. And when you remember, when you're working, part of your income goes to fund Social Security so that you can count on that income stream when you're older. And so you're contributing less. So ultimately you're going to get a little bit less. And the other piece of it is the retirement plan component. If you're not working, you're not participating in a retirement plan that one of your employers could offer. If you work at a company that offers a traditional defined benefit plan, that's a huge benefit. And I think oftentimes, because it's not cash compensation, real, like near term, we kind of put that off to the side and discredit it. But that is a huge plus, and less employers offer it. But what that is basically your employer setting aside money without you having to do anything for your retirement. So it's just an extra source of income when you pull the retirement lever. More and more employers are offering defined contribution plans. So if you're in a public company or a private company, you may have heard of a 401k, whereby you contribute part of your income on a regular basis out of your paycheck, and your employer will match up to a certain percent. I highly recommend, at a minimum, contributing as much as you can up to that max, because it's a great tool to start to accumulate income, and you don't even really miss it. It's coming right out of your paycheck. You don't even see it. So if you get into that habit early, it's a great habit to have. And then over time, you're accumulating this wealth that will also act as another income stream in retirement. If you work in a healthcare system or a hospital, not-for-profit hospital, you may hear 403B, same type of thing, where you're setting that money aside for a rainy day so that when you pull the retirement lever, that's another source of income that can come your way and fund your best retirement lifestyle. So as we think about retirement, women do tend to have less than men. So for instance, when you think about Social Security, and we got to watch, right now it's funded, but the number of retirees are almost outpacing the number of pre-retirees who are contributing to Social Security. So depending on your age, you may or may not realize the full benefit of the Social Security funding that many of our parents will or have had. So we need to plan for that. I tend to haircut that a little bit. Then you add any of the retirement income plans that you may have participated in at work, and just understanding where those income flows are. And then any of your savings that you have on the side. And that's really what you're trying to solve for. What is the money going to be coming in versus what you plan on spending and going out? We spoke about the nursing home expense. So that's just something to plan for as well, in addition to any of your, traditional expenses of, housing, food, fund money, all of that. So now we're going to shift gears into organizing your finances. So this is really a great discussion, whether you're a single mom or a single female, or, you're married. What are your goals? It's fun to talk about retirement, but what are your goals? Like, how do you want to live? What does a happy retirement look like for you? And then once you know that end state goal, how do you backtrack and think about, all right, what do I need along the way? I was lucky enough growing up. My father was in the financial field. He led a healthcare system, but was very conservative in his financial planning. And so he spoke with me when I was in college about the importance of protecting your loved ones and potentially having term insurance, the importance of saving money early, by, investing in a retirement plan that your company may offer, or working with a financial professional to start setting money aside. And Meg's going to talk about this next with the fixed income approach. Other things like disability, like if I were to get disabled, what would that mean to my family? It would be a loss of income. And not only that, they would have to pay for the expenses to take care of me. So, do you plan for that? Did I want to help fund my children's college savings or wedding funds? All of these things. So think about your goals and list them out, just to start to prioritize them as well. What are the need to haves and nice to haves, and how can you start to chip away at each? And then there's a worksheet. So there's a worksheet I'm going to show on the next slide, but there's also a sheet in the expo that will help you kind of, bucket this out. So for instance, how much do you have in savings and assets? Do you have, a home that you own or a car that you own? Maybe some collectibles, cash, investment portfolios like stocks. Take an inventory of what you have, and then line that up against your debt and liabilities. Do you have credit card debt? Do you have a mortgage on your home? What money do you owe? What money do you spend? And look at, do you have surplus or are you in the red, right? And that's step one. Like, and how do you right size that? And then with your surplus, you figure out, okay, this is how much money I want for fun money. This is how much money I need to live. This is how much money I want to save. And you break it down like that, and you can make small changes along the way, just like my caramel macchiato example, to start to move money between those buckets and make positive shifts that will help propel you, and they accumulate over time. So this is just an example of the worksheet that's in the expo. It's a little bit more built out in the expo, but this is a sample sheet that you could complete. And then other things to consider. Managing newly acquired wealth. So if you were to inherit money, or you think you might be, inheriting money, how do you want to spend it? What are the wishes of the individual sharing that wealth with you? Investment. What is your investment mindset? So I happen to be very conservative. My husband's a little less conservative. And how do we get on the same page? And we've worked with our financial professional to do this, to invest in ways that provide comfort and not more angst. Some people are much more risk tolerant, and there are investment vehicles for all of that. So what they'll do is a personality quiz with you and understand how much risk you're willing to take. And just, speaking from experience, I get made fun of a lot. I'm very risk averse. I would rather give up a little upside of what I could make to make sure I'm not losing money. And so you can find that financial professional that will work with you to get a happy medium, and you'll still be, earning interest on your money and growing your assets accordingly. Thinking about giving to others. Like, are you involved in church? Are there charitable contributions you like to make and that make you feel good? Taking care of your family. These are other things to consider. But the most important thing I really would love for all of you to take away is the record keeping component of this and the storing of the financial documents. So I remember when my grandfather passed away, he had nothing written down. And my grandmother is still alive and thriving at the age of 93. And it took their 4 children, I think, almost a year to figure out everything they had. It would be like they'd get something in the mail and be like, oh, he had a life insurance policy. Or, back then, I don't think they had email at that point. But now everything's in email. So how do you know what you have? Don't force your family to deal with the emotional hardship of having to deal with you passing away, and then also having to cobble together all the financial documents. Make a list of what you have, your bank accounts, maybe even passwords, and put it in a safe place, a safe, or with a family member, so that you know where everything is, the policy numbers, what it is, and just make sure you have a list of all that, because a lot of things are all over the place. And if you change jobs, you could have money in many, many different places. So I cannot stress enough the importance of record keeping and storing of your financial documents. And then preparing for success. So life happens, be ready. These are great questions to just ask and put your mind at ease, and think about who can help you in an unexpected situation, and have that conversation with them so that there aren't surprises. What happens in an emergency? What if you live longer? What if you become disabled or die unexpectedly? Do individuals know your wishes? And just make sure. It could be a friend. I know all my friends know my wishes. And that makes me sleep better at night, that I know that God forbid something happens to me, my friends know, what I would want with my children, our finances, some other things as well. And just a checklist to leave you with, know who your financial professionals are. There's a number of ways to find a financial professional. Don't feel obligated to fall in love with the first financial professional. You need to be comfortable with this. This is your hard-earned money. You want someone you trust, someone who gets you and understands your risk preferences and can help you feel great about the steps you're taking. Save and invest automatically. I think it's a great habit to get into. When it's not in front of you, you don't even miss it. So, start to just funnel money away into a savings. You'll be surprised at how quickly it builds. Ensure that income lasts as long as you do. Again, you work your butt off. Make sure that when it's time to enjoy it, you have assets that can help you live your best life in retirement. Plan to live with dignity. Make sure your wishes can be complied with, and that you're prepared financially to fund that. Tell your loved ones what your wishes are so they can help you plan accordingly. And last but not least, write it down and make sure you keep your important documents updated and organized. And with that, I just wanted to end on, there are many solutions that may help you. So if you're sitting there thinking, I don't have enough cash, or you're not sure what you have, this is the purpose of some of these solutions. So I spoke about the 401k, 403b plan. There are a number of annuities that can help, disability insurance, life insurance. I know these terms sometimes are tricky. There's a lot of descriptors that go with them that may be a bit foreign or not as well known. This is where financial professionals can, break it down in plain English, and you can make that decision to see what might be right for you. And in addition to speaking to a financial professional about it, there are resources to educate yourself. So for instance, the Alliance for Lifetime Income is an organization, and you can go to www.protectedincome.org. There is a wealth of knowledge there, trusted sources. You can get a retirement score to see how ready you are for retirement. It's just a phenomenal resource that is free of charge to use, to help you think a little bit more and educate yourself about retirement and potential long-term care needs, disability, other solutions there. And then the Bright House Financial homepage, our team puts a lot of work and investment into education around retirement and hybrid life insurance solutions. So there's a lot of great content there as well. And again, our expo at the Women's Symposium has a number of materials out there to support whatever you may be going through. So feel free to check that out. So that is all I have. I will turn it back to Mara.
Well, thank you so much. I am pleased with your presentation, and I really think that paying attention to record keeping, as you had said, is very important, because in an emergency, it's like, where's all this stuff? And I've seen it time and time again with families. And recently I had a story of a family that did prepare, and it really took the anxiety level down a little bit. So I think these are fantastic points, and I'm so gracious for your presentation, Megan. Thank you so much. All right, so let's see here. There's a little bit of technology, and Megan will bring you back in a little bit. I'm going to bring Meg Bavaro up, and then we're all going to have a Q&A session. We did have a few different questions submitted in advance, and so we'll see you back in about half hour. How's that sound?